Thank you, Dr. Crane. See, mentoring does work. That's interesting. Well, good morning, and it's really an honor for Jean and I to be able to present this keynote address to you. And we really spent a lot of time thinking about what we wanted to do, and we decided that we wanted to focus on our distinguished researchers. We recognize that there are many other distinct research awards that are given by the organization, but we felt that this was going to be the focus of our presentation today. We also wanted to do a little bit of contextual history on the organization, and you'll see how amazing the growth has been and how proud we all can be to be part of this organization. We're also going to talk a little bit about the context of nursing research during this 25-year period, and it's really interesting that NINR really is also having their 25th anniversary, so we've kind of had parallel development. And then the bulk of our presentation will be to honor our 16 distinguished researchers, and then we have a couple of closing remarks. What we had thought about doing is, as I guess on a play on the Chicago 7, or we thought, the Atlanta 60, because they were quite a brave group of researchers that actually met together to start thinking and planning about this organization. And like all change, it was not free of controversy. So we've invited D. Jean Wood, who was one of the pioneer organizers and the first president, and she's going to join us from her home in Michigan to talk a little bit about the founding years. And then we have Dr. Mary Walker, who was also one of those founding pioneers and is the executive dean of the University, South University, based in Savannah, and she's going to speak briefly about the first conference. What we're going to connect with Jean, and you can see there, we have a picture of Jean and Mary from the 20th anniversary, and the question to Dr. Wood is, tell us what prompted you and other pioneers to start a regional research organization.
Well, good morning to everybody. I'm really pleased to be joining you, even if it's in this forum. I've been thinking a lot about those very early days, and I had been recently at the University of South Carolina, coming there from University of Illinois at Chicago, and I missed the kind of support and socialization and whatever stimulus that was part of what Midwest Nursing Research Society offered. And I had talked with some of the other people who were at the University of South Carolina, and also in some of the other schools that I had known. And we all agreed that there was probably a need in the South so that there would be the same kind of activity offered for students as well as faculty. And so I sent a letter to deans in the southern region asking if they would support sending a faculty who were interested in the idea of having a regional nursing organization to a kind of organizing meeting at Atlanta Airport. And it astounded me how many people were there. And it all started at that time, because we talked a lot about the fact that there was a lot of agreement. People did want that kind of organization, and they were willing to put some time and energy into it, structuring it. And at that time, we also picked a smaller group, representational group from Southern schools, who was in fact going to be the organizing committee. And it was that group that I met with who began the planning of the first meeting that we would have, which was going to be held in Atlanta. And I was very excited about the amount of enthusiasm that I found in other people, and that gave me a lot of support, and I think it did them too. We thought we had a kind of mission at that point, something we felt strongly that there was a need for, and there was a lot of agreement about that. And all it took was for us to put a time and energy into the creation of it. So you can imagine that there was a lot going on. I think that I don't consider myself, I never did consider myself a talented researcher, because I came to research activity late in my career, but I had a lot of experience in organization, and I think that gave me a lot to fall back on when I came to trying to help structure a new organization. We did also get some support from SREB who worked with us and gave us some support, but we weren't sure at that time whether they thought they ought to be doing what we were doing or whether we should continue to do it. But we just sort of let it go along, until at one time the members of the Southern Region, or SNRS, were asked to give their opinion about which they thought was the best focus for the leadership, and they decided they would rather go on as a separate organization, which we did. I guess that those are the things that I've been thinking about, and if there's anything else that I can answer, I'd be glad to, but I'm simply, delighted that there's 25 years of activity that's gone on from those days. There were from a small group, and I guess I don't really know what your membership is now, but I'm quite sure that it's a lot more than what we had thought would be a pivotal number for us if we were going to survive. But welcome again to all of you, and I hope you enjoyed your activities as much as I had in the past, and all of the people that I was working with did.
Jean, Dr. Wood,
Yes?
thank you. This is Janet. Thank you so much for those comments. I wish you could see the audience here, listening to your telling of the history of this wonderful organization, and we really appreciate you being willing to give us some insights about that. You're welcome to continue. I know that you can hear the conversation. You're welcome to continue to listen. And now I'm going to ask Dr. Walker to come and talk briefly about the first conference. Thanks again, Dr. Wood.
Good morning. I'd be remiss if I didn't say to you that following the granting of my doctorate and my postdoctoral experience at Urbana-Champaign, Dr. Wood was my first department head. And so if it is true that there is 1 degree of separation everywhere sitting in this room among the 700 attendees, there is 1 degree of separation somewhere. And hopefully during the next 3 days you'll have an opportunity to be able to reconnect with those people who have been so significant to you as friends and colleagues across the time that you've been members of this wonderful society. It's interesting to go back, and I'm grateful to people who are better historians than I am to get me the paperwork I needed to do this presentation. I remembered some things and forgot many things, but the first organizing conference for the Southern Nursing Research Society was actually held at the Hotel Tower Place in Atlanta on April 24th and 25th, 1987. The theme was Organizing for Excellence in Nursing Research. And even though less than a year earlier we had 60 members, we received in that first call for abstracts 187 abstracts for review. 4 of us were the abstract reviewers for those 187. And we were primary and secondary reviewers. I lost weight during the review. Please send me more. There were 4 of us: Marjorie White, Mary DeJeanette, who is to be with us today. She's not here. I hope she would be. Mary Jane Ward and I. And I'd be remiss also without thanking the former and current deans within the Southern region who have given so generously to this organization. My own dean at the time, Carolyn Williams, not only paid my travel and allowed me the latitude, but also paid for the copying of the abstracts, the mailing, the review, the secretarial support, and all of that. So For all of them, then and now, please join me in saying thank you. Our keynote speaker, Nola Pender. Promoting research excellence at the regional level was the topic of her conversation with us. And following that was a spirited, shall I say, dialogue about how we should organize as a society. Audrey Spector presented a model for aligning with SCCEN. I promoted a model of aligning with the Council of Nurse Researchers from ANA as a corporate organization. And Jean Wood and Marjorie White presented a model for organizing as an independent organization. Actually, what happened should have been no surprise. We are nurses. Independence is the watchword of our discipline, and independence it was. So we went on and had one of the most lively business meetings at that time, in which we were beginning to think about what would be our dues, okay? So first of all, the rooms were $50 at the hotel, and if you split it with a friend, it was $25 plus tax and tip. So the dues, however, were $75 a year for full-time members. And we began in 1987 building what we needed as assets who were our members and resources, which were our dollars generated primarily from membership. We moved forward at that meeting with a total of 45 abstracts that were successfully selected from among the 176 abstracts that had been submitted. I served as abstract chair for 4 years. The second year we had 400 abstracts. And so all of us who've been affiliated with SNRS across these last 25 years know that this has been a preeminent research society for the South, that the colleagues that we have developed here and the friendships that we have developed have lasted across 25 years. And the fact that we're all standing here, sitting here, and are able to be here today is the greatest blessing of all. Many thanks.
Thanks so much, Mary. Despite what Mary said, maybe abstract reviewing loses weight, but in the early days on the board, we met in Atlanta because it was the central place where everybody could fly in, and we'd just meet for a day or 2 days. And I got to know Mary Walker because our planes always seemed to be leaving last from the airport. So we spent many times drinking Coke and eating popcorn, waiting for our planes and getting to know each other. I just wanted to share this quote from Dr. Wood. This is during the 20th anniversary celebration, and she was asked the question that's on the screen, and she stated, I quote, "No, but it was important to provide the mechanism for that growth through an organization, and that is why we worked so hard to start SNRS." So particularly to those of you who are new to the organization, doctoral students, new researchers, I think we felt it was really important to understand some of the history. And what Mary has said is correct, that I look around this room and see people that I have worked with since the very beginning, and you really maintain those colleagues over the years. This is just a map of the region, and you can see I realized I was geographically challenged when I had to figure out which state was which, because it was a blank map, but I finally did. And the yellow and the orange are the 14 states that make up SNRS, and the yellow designate states that there has not been a conference. So I know that there was going to be one in New Orleans, and Hurricane Katrina intervened. So we're hoping that we'll get a conference in Mississippi and a conference in West Virginia at some time in the future. This, I think, is an impressive slide. It shows the tremendous membership growth. Again, in 1986, 60 faculty and less than 10 students. And look at it now, and what's really impressive, it's almost 1,200 members. I think it's the largest membership of all the 4 regional groups, but also we've added international members as well as members from other regions. So I think everyone should be very proud of that kind of growth. And this is the membership by state. Again, not every state, including my own, Maryland, now was not at the original, it was not part of that Atlanta 60. But you can see the tremendous growth of membership, and that every state has members in the organization. Having been a Texan for a long time, of course, Texas has the most membership. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. McSweeney.